Hey guys, Ryan here, back with our second look at the Power Rangers Zeo Zord line. The toy history then. Red Puncher was the second mecha introduced in O-Ranger and as the Red Battlezord in Power Rangers Zeo. I think it's very interesting how once again the original Japanese story dovetailed really nicely in with Power Rangers. Because for 3 seasons, we'd become very well versed to Tommy having his own Zord separate from the main Megazord. For 2 years it had been freestanding Megazord class in the Dragon Zord and the White Tiger Zord. And then in season 3, Falcon Zord was the biggest and most adaptable of the Ninja Zords. But Falcon Zord didn't harbour much of a transformation, and it wasn't a Megazord of its own. And despite the Red Ranger never having got an additional Zord so far, now Tommy's on the main team, he gets his own independent Zord. I remember as a kid thinking, of course he does, but this time is actually more akin to Dragon Zord than anything else. It is a Megazord class Zord with combining ability, and it becomes a crucial part in the Ultra Zord. But it's also just artillery, there to kind of fill out the look of the Zord line, and it's kind of boring. Like with Zeo Mega Battlezord, I only actually got the deluxe version of this back in 2013, years after having suffered with the micro playset version, so I don't really have much childhood nostalgia for this thing, which I think may be what's hindering my fondness of it. That moves us nicely into talking about the design. Apparently it's based off a boxer because of the championship belt and sort of red boxing gloves and I guess kind of gold gauntlets. The star of Zeo Ranger 5 being the helmet visor is the most prominent feature of it, I think. Other than that, there's not much to go on here, it's very chunky. In fact, the arms of this appear bigger than those on the Zeo Megazord. But hey, it's a punching robot, it needs some extra arm strength. As we mentioned, the red on this really complements the lack of red on the main Megazord. And the big gold gauntlets and belt offer another tie-in with the Zeo Megazord in that they're so shiny and they really tie in with that industrial theme. Are there any differences from the Japanese original? I can't see any, unless I'm just being really dense. This is a rare instance where the Japanese original made it over to America whole. And after taking the sound and light electronics out of our Falcon Zord last year, it's nice that they keep the motorized gimmick in the batteries, although I expect that's probably what allowed them to keep the price on par with a proper combining Megazord. What's bad about this one? Well, as I've said, it's just a bit boring really. I think the White Tiger Zord was peak Tommy, and the Falcon Zord served to tie him in with the rest of the team a lot better. With the second Megazord class Zord in Zeo, that's a tongue twister, I really would have preferred something more like the Delta Megazord or the Time Shadow that we would get in future seasons. You know, where the second Megazord belongs to the team as a whole and it's not garishly attached to one Ranger colour. Also, the lack of posability I think is atrocious for such a limited mecha. You can't do anything with the legs, and because of the motorized gimmick, the arms only move around 360 degrees, which I'm sure is only because the transformation combination requires it. After the Zeo Megazord, these arms were a big step down, and you would have been forgiven for thinking that this came from a much older season. The head doesn't move either, but really, when does it? And the sideways pegging on method they introduced with the Zeo Megazord battle helmets means that it wasn't even possible in the first place. It's a shame they hadn't thought then to use a peg on the inside of the helmet like they do on more recent Megazords, rather than having to bolt down on either side of the head. I nearly said neck there, there's no neck. Also, that punching feature, it can get a little bit out of control and destabilise the Zord from standing in one place. It's also a little weird that in the combination, Adam's Zeo battle helmet is actually the last one of the main 5 still attached. The storage method on the back of it no longer works because the Red Battlezord is on the way, and obviously you've lost the main warrior mode helmet in place of the new Red Battlezord helmet. But still, not as bad as my original Micro Zeo playset where you had to remove all of the Zeozord 5. What's great about it then? Well, you can't deny that this was a fun idea, and it was nice to have something a bit different. The fact that they went for something that resembles the finisher on the show was really clever. The 2-speed punching is great for kids, and something else that we hadn't seen in Power Rangers up until that point. Other than that, I don't think there's much greatness here. It seems to be more of a gimmick-driven Zord, which wasn't something I was necessarily there for. But somewhere we can give it respect is the combination with the Zeo Megazord. Yep, it's one of those backpack editions, but the chrome cannons and new helmet atop of those chromed shoulder pads made for a really impressive visual, and was another strong contender in the line of 6 Zord combinations. Not counting Mega Dragonzord, which was a bit of a two-headed monster, this was the first time we had a 6 Zord combination with a new face. It feels like the most stable combination Zord, because of having 4 feet. And I think what works best about it is that it retains the Zeo Megazord having prominence, being a nicer design, but then adds on the best attributes of the Red Battlezord, those being the 2 giant cannons. You also get a much tighter connection by tucking in the stabilizers from Megazord mode. The bigger footprint really makes it a lot more stable, will keep it from falling back even on the highest punching speed setting, and everything feels very solid here. That's it for this one. I really feel like this is my quickest review ever, but it's a necessary stepping stone to get to where we want to go, which is a pyramid on wheels. See you next time.